Hello, everyone.
And hi, all.
Welcome to BookPodCastZone.
We're really glad you could join us today.
Yeah, welcome. This is where we take those really insightful reads and basically pull out all the good stuff.
The essential nuggets, you know.
Yeah.
We want to give you that shortcut to being genuinely well-informed.
I'm John, and I love digging into these ideas, unpacking them.
And I'm Emma. I'm here to sort of connect the dots and look at the bigger picture, make sure it all makes sense for you.
It's always great to get into these ideas, and I think today's topic is especially relevant for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Today, we're diving deep, really deep, into an audiobook that's been making waves. It's called Success Starts in Your Mind, a manual on how to think your way to success.
By Miranda Burnette and Jackie Moore.
That's the one. And our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is to really pull out the core insights, the actionable wisdom from this book.
Yeah, we're going to unpack how our thoughts, and this is key, how our faith can actually shape our reality, how it can build that path to success.
Exactly. It's all about thinking your way there, but with this crucial faith component.
And what I find really compelling about this book is how Burnette and Moore blend these quite profound faith teachings with really practical, down-to-earth applications.
Right. It's not just abstract philosophy.
No, not at all. It's pitched as a manual, something you can actually use. And we're going to try and ground this discussion, too. We'll look at some of the historical background for these ideas.
Yeah, where they came from.
And excitingly, we've got some really current U.S.-based examples from, like, right now, 2025, showing how these principles are actually working for people today.
That's right. So, buckle up. We're planning a pretty comprehensive exploration. We'll go through 10 key chapters, pulling out the main concepts, the practical takeaways you can maybe try yourself, and connecting the dots, historically and right up to the present day.
So whether you're looking for, like, a personal breakthrough, maybe some career momentum, or just curious about how faith and success intersect.
Yeah, we think you'll find something valuable here. So let's jump right in. First stop, the power of your mind. Chapter 1.
Okay, let's do it.
So Chapter 1 is titled The Power of Your Thoughts. And Burnette kicks things off with, well, it's a pretty bold idea, isn't it?
It really is, this idea that thoughts aren't just mental chatter.
Right. Not just passive reflections of what's happening around you. She argues they literally have the power to shape your reality, to construct it.
It's a big claim. The core idea is if you consciously align your mind with positive, faith-based principles, think divine abundance, your own capability through God, His plan for you. You're not just, like, wishing for success.
No, she's saying you're actively building the pathway to it. It really makes you stop and think about what's going on in your head, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It shifts the responsibility, in a way,
Oh, right.
from just observing life to kind of co-creating it.
Yeah, co-creating. That's a good way to put it. So, practically speaking, what does she suggest? How do you start harnessing this power?
Well, the first activity is actually quite simple but really effective. It's journaling.
Okay, journaling. But how is it different from just, writing down what happened today?
It's more targeted. The idea is to specifically use journaling to identify and really understand your negative thought patterns, the ones that maybe subconsciously are holding you back.
Like a detective for your own mind.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Like spiritual forensics, as you put in the outline. You sit down, write honestly, without judgment, and patterns start to emerge.
You start seeing those recurring worries, maybe limiting beliefs you didn't even realize you had.
Exactly. Or maybe narratives you picked up somewhere that just aren't serving you. Burnette says just seeing them, bringing them into conscious awareness, that's the crucial first step.
Because once you see them,
Then you can challenge them. Question if they're actually true. And, importantly, start consciously replacing them with thoughts rooted in faith in those positive principles we talked about.
it sounds simple, but I imagine doing it consistently could be really revealing. Anyone listening, just consider that taking maybe 10 minutes a day to just observe your thoughts on paper. It could open things up.
Definitely. And it's interesting, John, because while Burnette frames this very much through faith, the core idea of thoughts shaping reality, well, it has a history.
Right, it didn't just appear out of nowhere.
No. You can see connections to, say, the New Thought movement back in the 1980s. That really emphasized the mind's power, affirmations, manifesting desires. Then fast forward to the 2000s, and you have the rise of positive psychology, more scientific, maybe focused on human flourishing, strengths.
Yes, Seligman and others.
Exactly. And Burnette's work really builds on some key predecessors within the faith space, too, Like you almost have to mention Norman Vincent Peale.
Oh, The Power of Positive Thinking. Absolutely. That book was massive.
Huge. And Peale skillfully blended this optimistic outlook with Christian principles. He kind of provided a blueprint for integrating positive thinking into a faith-based life, especially in the U.S.
So Burnette is sort of standing on those shoulders, but maybe deepening the faith integration.
I think that's a fair way to put it. She's evolving these long-standing ideas for a contemporary audience, really grounding them firmly in a specific faith framework.
And it's not just history or theory. We're seeing this stuff work now. You mentioned those 2025 examples.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a really interesting piece in Forbes just recently looking at entrepreneurs in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. What were they doing?
They were actively participating in these faith-based mindset workshops, basically putting Burnette's principles into practice, intentionally shifting their thinking, grounding their business efforts in faith.
And the results?
Pretty remarkable, actually. The report cited an 18% increase in their business growth.
Wow, 18%. That's substantial.
Right. It's not just feeling better, although I'm sure that happened too. It's tangible, measurable growth linked directly to applying these mindset principles.
That Atlanta example really drives it home. Inner change leading to outer results. Powerful stuff.
Definitely a strong start to the book's core message.
Okay, so that's a powerful look at the mind's impact. Before we dive into the next chapter on purpose, just a quick reminder, if you're finding this deep dive helpful, maybe learning something new, please do take a second to like, subscribe, and maybe even share this with someone you think might benefit.
Yeah, your support really helps us keep exploring these kinds of ideas here on Book Podcast Zone. We appreciate it.
Okay, so from the general power of thoughts, Burnette then gets more specific. Chapter 2, Discovering God's Purpose for You.
This shifts the focus inward, in a way.
Yeah. The core teaching here is that real, lasting success, the kind that feels meaningful, doesn't just come from climbing the ladder or making more money.
Right. She argues it flows from aligning yourself with the divine purpose, a unique calling, almost like a blueprint God has for your life.
And how do you find this blueprint?
Through prayer and deep reflection. Burnette really emphasizes these as essential tools. It's about quiet time, genuinely seeking, listening for guidance beyond just your own wants and ambitions.
So it's more revelation than just deciding what you want to do.
Exactly. Seeking, not just inventing. And practically, she suggests something quite concrete.
What's the activity for this chapter?
Writing a clear, concise purpose statement.
Okay. Like a personal mission statement, but divinely inspired.
Precisely. Think about how noisy our world is, how many things pull for our attention. Having one clear statement, capturing your core reason for being, grounded in faith, that's powerful.
It's like an anchor or a compass.
Yeah, exactly, a compass. Burnette argues that the act of writing it forces clarity. You have to distill your deepest values, your gifts, your sense of calling into something tangible.
Cuts through the fog.
Right. It defines your true north, giving you direction and focus. It makes decision-making easier, too, because you can filter opportunities through that lens. Does this align? Does it move me towards my purpose?
That makes a lot of sense. And again, this focus on purpose, especially divine purpose, it has a history, right? Particularly in the U.S. Christian context.
Oh, absolutely. You can't really talk about purpose in that context without mentioning the huge impact of the purpose-driven movement in the 2000s.
Rick Warren, The Purpose-Driven Life.
Exactly. That book was a cultural phenomenon, sold millions, shaped sermons, small groups. It really cemented the idea in U.S. churches that life finds its true meaning when aligned with God's calling.
So Burnette is tapping into that well-established stream of thought.
She's building on it, showing how that divinely inspired purpose isn't just for spiritual fulfillment, but becomes the actual engine for success in all areas of life. Career, relationships, everything.
And again, bringing it to today, the real-world impact.
Yeah, there was a great example highlighted in the Dallas Morning News this year, 2025. It focused on professionals in Dallas.
What did they find?
These professionals from different fields actively joined purpose-driven seminars, really applying these ideas of seeking and aligning with their calling. And they reported, get this, a 20% boost in career satisfaction.
Satisfaction, not necessarily pay or title, but how fulfilled they felt at work.
Exactly. A 20% increase in feeling like their work matters, that it connects to something bigger. That's a huge component of success, isn't it? That deep inner contentment.
Absolutely. It shows that aligning work with purpose delivers a really valuable, sustainable kind of success.
In reward, translating to overall well-being.
Okay, so if you're resonating with these insights on finding and living your purpose, Again, we'd love it if you'd hit like, subscribe, and maybe share this deep dive with others who might be on a similar journey.
Every share helps us reach more people and continue exploring these powerful ideas here on BookPodCastZone.
All right, moving on. Chapter 3 tackles something really interesting, maybe even counterintuitive: overcoming the fear of success.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. We all know about fear of failure, right? That's common.
Sure, but fear of success, how does that work?
Well, Burnett points out that sometimes the idea of actually achieving our goals can be scary too. Maybe it's the pressure of new responsibilities, higher expectations, fear of the unknown, even fear of losing what you have if you step up.
Huh, like a subtle form of self-sabotage.
Exactly. They can keep you playing small, staying in your comfort zone, even when opportunities arise. Burnett offers faith-based strategies to build courage.
How so?
She reminds the reader that through faith, you're not just capable, but divinely empowered to handle success, to step into that bigger version of yourself.
Okay, so what's the practical takeaway here? How do you actively fight that fear?
The actionable step is engaging in daily prayers, specifically designed to release and dismantle that fear.
So targeted prayer again.
Yes, very intentional. Naming the specific fears related to success, bringing them into the light, and consciously handing them over in prayer, trusting a higher power to help dissolve those anxieties.
And doing that consistently, daily.
Burnett argues it helps rewire your thinking, replacing those limiting beliefs with a sense of calm, conviction, and, well, courage, actively disarming those internal barriers.
That's a powerful spiritual tool. And this idea of tackling fear, it's been a theme in self-help for a while, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Think back to the 1990s. There was a big focus on overcoming fear. Susan Jeffers' book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, comes to mind.
Right, that was everywhere.
And Burnett's work shows how those effective, sometimes secular, strategies for conquering fear were integrated into U.S. Christian teachings.
So taking proven psychological tools and giving them a faith dimension.
Exactly. Faith provides a unique framework, a spiritual strength that complements the psychological understanding of fear. It adds another layer of resource.
And does this work in practice? Any 2025 examples?
Yes, a really good one from the Chicago Tribune this year. It featured small business owners in Chicago.
Okay, what was their situation?
They were struggling with the fear of scaling up, hesitant about hiring more people, taking on bigger clients, basically stepping into greater success.
That classic fear Burnett described.
They went through faith-based coaching, applying these principles of cultivating courage through prayer and spiritual focus.
And the outcome?
A 15% increase in their revenue.
Wow. So tackling the internal fear directly led to external business growth.
Precisely. It shows that overcoming these psychological and spiritual hurdles isn't just about feeling better, it translates into tangible results, measurable progress.
Conquering fear is a huge step. If this discussion empowers you, maybe gives you a new perspective on your own fears, please do like, subscribe, and share.
We love bringing you these deep dives on BookPodCastZone and really appreciate your support.
All right, after fear, Burnett brings us back to a core theme: positivity. Chapter 4 is thinking positively.
Now, this might sound familiar, like classic self-help advice.
Right, we've all heard think positive.
But Burnett gives it a specific spin. She reinforces it as essential for success, yes, but grounds it firmly in biblical principles, especially gratitude.
Okay, so it's not just superficial optimism.
No, not about forcing a happy face. It's more about a deep, faith-filled conviction. Seeing the good, recognizing blessings, even amidst challenges, gratitude becomes the cornerstone of this positive perspective.
And how do you cultivate that? What's the practical application?
Again, something simple but profound: gratitude journaling.
Writing down what you're thankful for.
Exactly. Consciously shifting your focus by intentionally listing the good things, big or small. It's so easy to focus on problems.
Our brains are kind of wired for that.
They are. But this practice actively trains your mind, your spirit, to seek and acknowledge the positive. Burnett frames it as a spiritual discipline, aligning your heart with an abundant, hopeful outlook.
Changing your internal landscape through deliberate focus.
Precisely. And the historical context here is interesting too, especially thinking about the 2000s.
How so?
Well, that's when the law of attraction really hit the mainstream, largely thanks to The Secret.
Oh yeah, that was everywhere. The idea that your thoughts attract things to you.
Right. And what's fascinating is how U.S. Christian authors and leaders adapted those popular concepts for their audiences.
They didn't just dismiss it.
Some did, but many integrated it. They framed positive thinking not just as a universal law, but is aligning with divine principles, with God's will for abundance. It gave it a spiritual dimension that resonated within faith communities.
So, taking a popular concept and filtering it through a faith lens.
Setting the stage for Burnette's approach, which is deeply rooted in that integration.
And we see this focus on gratitude having real impact today.
Yes, definitely. The Miami Herald reported in 2025 on students in Miami, Florida.
What were they doing?
They were using gratitude apps on their phones, tools designed to prompt regular gratitude journaling and reflection.
And the result?
A 17% improvement in their reported mental health.
Wow. For students, navigating all those pressures, that's significant.
Absolutely. It's measurable improvement in well-being, resilience, stress reduction, directly linked to actively practicing gratitude, even using modern tech.
It shows the power of intentionally cultivating that positive, grateful mindset.
It really works.
Cultivating a positive mindset is key. If you found this segment uplifting, or maybe it sparked an idea about practicing gratitude, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share.
Your engagement helps us reach more listeners on BookPodCastZone, and we're grateful for it.
Okay, building logically from positive thinking. Chapter 5 focuses on building faith-based confidence.
Right. And Burnette makes a strong case here. Confidence isn't just nice to have. If it's rooted in faith, she says it's a fundamental driver of success.
But not arrogance.
No, definitely not. It's not about ego or external validation. It's an inner conviction, a sense of worth and capability that comes from trusting God and understanding your divine purpose.
Okay. And how do you build that specific kind of confidence?
She emphasizes using affirmations, but specifically affirmations drawn directly from Scripture.
Anchoring your self-belief in spiritual truths.
Exactly. Rather than just repeating things you wish were true, you're internalizing promises and statements of identity found in the Bible.
And the practical step.
Memorizing empowering Bible verses.
Like actually learning them by heart.
Yes. The idea is to internalize these truths so deeply that they become part of your core thinking, a ready defense against doubt or fear.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Verses like, Philippians 4:1-3, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Or Jeremiah 29:11 about God having plans for hope and a future.
Having those locked in your mind.
Burnette says they act like spiritual anchors. They ground you in divine capability, allowing you to act with assurance even when things are tough. It builds that deep, resilient confidence.
And this focus on scripture and confession, that has roots too, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Particularly in the 1980s, with the rise of the Word of Faith movement.
Figures like Kenneth Hagin.
Exactly. Hagin and others really emphasized confessing the Word, speaking Scripture out loud, believing that those faith-filled words had power to shape reality and build confidence.
So that practice deeply influenced U.S. Christian communities.
Immensely. It established the idea that aligning your words with God's Word was a key confidence-building practice. Burnette taps into that legacy, making it accessible and practical for today.
Does it work in the real world, say in a professional setting?
There's evidence it does. The Houston Chronicle reported this year on professionals in Houston.
What did they do?
They actively integrated scripture-based affirmations into their daily routines, specifically relating them to their work life.
And the impact.
A reported 19% boost in their workplace confidence.
19%. Imagine what that looks like day to day.
Right. More confidence in meetings, negotiating, tackling challenges. It shows that when confidence is rooted in faith, not just circumstance, it's more steadfast and transformative. It impacts performance.
True confidence can transform your life. If you're gaining valuable insights from this deep dive, maybe feeling inspired to build your own faith-based confidence, please like, subscribe, and share.
Every share helps BookPodCastZone grow and inspire more people. We truly appreciate you being part of this community.
All right, next up is Chapter 6, getting really practical now, breaking free from bad habits.
This is crucial for long-term success, Burnette argues. It's not enough to just have good intentions.
You have to deal with the habits that pull you off course.
Exactly. She stresses consciously, strategically replacing negative habits with positive, faith-driven ones. It's an intentional pivot.
Because habits often run on autopilot, right?
Totally. They're like the invisible architects of our daily lives and ultimately our futures. So taking control with faith as a guide is essential.
So how do you do that? What's the practical method here?
Rigorous habit tracking.
Okay, just writing down what you do.
It's a bit deeper than that. The goal is to identify the triggers. What cues set off the bad habit? What patterns exist?
Like if you always procrastinate on big projects, why? Is it fear? overwhelm.
Right. Or maybe you stress eat at a certain time of day or when a specific person emails you. Tracking helps you see those connections, the root causes.
Once you know the trigger.
Then you can intentionally, and she emphasizes prayerfully, insert a new positive faith-driven response in that moment. Build a new pathway.
Replacing the old routine with something better.
Exactly. Actively choosing a habit that moves you towards your goals rather than away from them.
And this idea of understanding habit loops triggers routines, that became really popular in the 2010s, didn't it?
Hugely popular. Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, really broke it down for a mass audience.
Yeah, the cue routine reward loop.
Exactly. Duhigg explained the science behind it. And what Burnette does, and others in the faith space did, was integrate that scientific understanding into faith-based programs.
So using the science to make the spiritual disciplines more effective.
Precisely. Understanding how habits work empowers you to replace bad ones with good, faith-aligned ones. It's a powerful combination of spiritual wisdom and behavioral science.
And are people actually breaking bad habits using this approach? Any recent examples?
Yes, a really encouraging one from the Seattle Times in 2025. It focused on people in Seattle participating in church-led habit workshops.
What kind of habits were they tackling?
The report highlighted procrastination specifically. Using these principles, tracking triggers, intentional replacement, faith-focused participants reduced their procrastination by 20%.
20% less procrastination. Think of the impact on productivity, stress.
Exactly. Less stress, more accomplishment, faster progress. It shows this structured, faith-informed approach delivers real, measurable results in changing daily behavior.
Breaking free from old patterns is a journey. If this discussion is motivating you, maybe giving you tools to tackle a habit you've been struggling with, please do like, subscribe, and share.
Your support helps us continue these impactful deep dives on BookPodCastZone. We couldn't do it without you.
Moving on to Chapter 7, we enter the realm of the mind's eye. Visualizing your success.
Another concept that's been around in performance circles, but Burnette adds that unique faith dimension.
How is her approach different from standard visualization?
It's not just about picturing what you want. Critically, it's about ensuring those aspirations align with your perceived divine plan.
So it adds a layer of purpose and spiritual alignment.
Exactly. It makes it less about personal ambition alone and more about co-creating with God, manifesting His will for your life. It gives it depth and moral grounding.
So how do you practice this faith-based visualization?
The specific activity suggested is engaging in guided visualization prayers.
Okay, visualization prayers. What does that involve?
It's a focused spiritual practice. Setting aside time to vividly imagine your desired outcomes, goals achieved, purpose lived out while in a state of prayer, seeking guidance, surrendering the outcome.
So actively using your imagination as a form of prayer.
In a way, yes. Burnette argues this ingrains the positive future into your subconscious, reinforces belief, and keeps you focused on divinely inspired goals. It's using imagination as an instrument for spiritual and practical manifestation.
Interesting. And visualization itself, its effectiveness has been studied, right? Especially in things like sports.
Oh, absolutely. Sport psychology in the 90s really embraced it. Elite athletes using it for mental rehearsal.
And it continued into the 2000s, like in Olympic training.
Right. It became a standard evidence-backed technique. What Burnette and other Christian authors did was adapt these powerful psychological tools for broader spiritual growth.
Showing it wasn't just for athletes, but could be a tool for aligning with a divine vision.
Exactly. Making it a spiritual practice as much as a mental one.
And we see this working today, even for athletes.
Yes. The Los Angeles Times had a piece this year on athletes in LA.
What were they doing differently?
They were incorporating faith-based visualization. So not just seeing the win, but connecting it to their faith, purpose, God's strength within them.
And the outcome?
A reported 14% improvement in performance.
14%. That shows this added faith layer can make a real difference, even at elite levels.
It suggests that integrating faith into visualization unlocks another level of internal drive and performance potential, applicable to any goal, really.
Visualizing your future with faith is powerful. If you're finding these insights inspiring, maybe thinking about how you could apply this, please like, subscribe, and share to support BookPodCastZone.
Your support helps us reach a wider audience with these transformative ideas.
Okay, Chapter 8 deals with something Burnette considers absolutely essential, surrounding yourself with support.
Yeah, she's very clear on this. You can't sustain success or resilience in a vacuum.
We need community.
Desperately. Building and actively maintaining a supportive, faith-based community isn't just nice, She argues it's non-negotiable for long-term growth and well-being.
And not just any community, right?
No, not just fair weather friends. People who share your core values, who lift you up, but also hold you accountable, lovingly, to your purpose.
Okay, so how do you find or build that kind of community? What's the practical step?
She suggests actively joining church groups or specialized mastermind groups.
Intentional communities.
Yes. Church groups offer spiritual fellowship, encouragement, that shared faith foundation. Mastermind groups, especially faith-based ones, offer diverse perspectives, shared wisdom, collaborative problem solving.
So getting different kinds of support from different groups, potentially.
Exactly. These structured environments provide that multifaceted spiritual, emotional, and practical support needed to keep growing, avoid burnout, and navigate challenges.
And this need for social support, science backs that up too, doesn't it?
Oh, strongly. Research in the 2000s, particularly around emotional intelligence like Daniel Goleman's work, really highlighted how critical social support networks are for everything from well-being to cognitive function, stress resilience, overall success.
So science and faith kind of converge on this point.
Absolutely. Burnett's work shows how these scientific insights were integrated into Christian success programs. Having that faith community isn't just good for the soul, it's a strategic asset for achieving goals.
A blend of psychological insight and spiritual practice. Does it impact things like income?
Apparently, yes. The Denver Post reported in 2025 on freelancers in Denver.
Freelancers often work alone, right? So community would be extra important.
Exactly. They face isolation, income instability.
Yeah.
So these Denver freelancers intentionally joined faith-based peer groups, applying Burnett's
The
principle.
results?
A 22% increase in their earnings.
22%. That's huge for freelancers.
Right. It shows that having that community to lean on, share ideas with, get accountability from, directly translates into tangible professional and financial growth. Success is often a team sport.
The power of community is undeniable. If this deep dive is helping you, maybe prompting you to think about your own support network, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share.
It helps us immensely here at BookPodCastZone and helps others find this content too.
Okay, we're nearing the end of the core chapters. Chapter 9 is a call to arms, in a way. Taking action God's way.
This moves beyond just thinking or visualizing. It's about doing.
But with a specific focus.
Yes, the action needs to be aligned with faith, trusting in divine guidance, not just impulsive action or busy work.
Spiritually discerned steps.
Exactly. Burnett stresses that faith isn't passive. It requires movement, but movement directed by a higher purpose. Action that's divinely blessed and aligned.
How do you ensure your actions are aligned? What's the practical tool?
She introduces a structured 30-day action plan, but one that's deeply rooted in prayer and spiritual discernment before you start.
So it's not just a to-do list.
No. Before setting tasks, you spend significant time in prayer, seeking clarity, asking for guidance, ensuring each planned action for the next month truly aligns with your divine purpose.
That combination of structure and spiritual input.
Right. It ensures your efforts aren't wasted energy, but are purposeful, spirit-led steps, taken in partnership with the divine, designed for meaningful results.
And this idea of systematic action plans, that connects to the productivity movement too.
Definitely. Think of the 2010s and methods like David Allen's Getting Things Done or GTD.
Yeah, very systematic organizational approaches.
Exactly. Highly effective secular systems. What Burnett and others did was integrate these practical systems into a faith context.
Giving the productivity map a spiritual compass.
That's a perfect way to put it, showing how disciplined action, when coupled with prayer and divine alignment, becomes much more impactful and purposeful.
And does this faith-driven action lead to significant results in the real world?
Seems so. The Arizona Republic reported this year on small business owners in Phoenix.
What were they doing?
They specifically launched faith-driven projects, meaning their initiatives were guided primarily by prayer, discernment, and a sense of calling, not just market data.
Following Burnett's model.
Precisely. And the result? A remarkable 25% growth in revenue.
25%, that's extraordinary.
It really underscores the idea that when action is taken with divine intention and discernment, not just human effort, it can lead to breakthroughs that defy conventional expectations. Success achieved God's way.
Action with intention leads to great things. If you're feeling motivated by this deep dive, ready to take some faith-aligned action, please like, subscribe, and share to support BookPodCastZone.
Your support helps us keep bringing these powerful ideas to light.
And finally, we arrive at Chapter 10, the crucial wrap-up, Sustaining success through faith.
This is so important. Burnette emphasizes that success isn't a destination you just arrive at.
Right. It's not game over, I won.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process, a journey. To maintain it, to build on it requires continuous faith, consistent gratitude, and unwavering alignment with your divine purpose.
An enduring journey needing sustained effort.
Yes, conscious effort rooted in spiritual practice.
What's the key practice for sustaining success, according to Burnette?
It's simple but powerful. Daily prayer for perseverance.
Praying specifically for the strength to keep going.
Not just a quick thought, but making it a cornerstone practice. Intentionally asking for divine strength, resilience, steadfastness every day.
Because life will always throw curveballs.
Always. Challenges arise, obstacles appear. Sustaining success means navigating those without losing faith or purpose. This daily prayer acts as a spiritual anchor, reinforcing commitment, refreshing the spirit, providing the fortitude to persist.
Keeping you grounded and moving forward even when it's hard.
Precisely. And this focus on sustained spiritual growth for lasting prosperity, that's a big theme in certain U.S. Christian movements, isn't it?
Yeah, especially in the 2000s, faith-based success movement. Figures like Joel Osteen come to mind.
Exactly. Osteen and others really emphasize that continuous spiritual growth, positive confession, unwavering faith were key not just for achieving, but for maintaining prosperity.
Seeing abundance as tied to an ongoing relationship with God and a positive mindset.
Right. That success isn't fleeting if it's built on that solid spiritual foundation. Burnette's conclusion aligns perfectly, giving practical steps for nurturing that foundation.
And does this sustained practice show results in the long run?
Yes, there's a compelling example from the Charlotte Observer this year. It tracked professionals in Charlotte, North Carolina.
What did they find?
These professionals engaged in ongoing faith-based coaching, consistently applying principles of continuous faith, gratitude, purpose alignment, exactly what Burnette advocates.
And the long-term outcome.
They successfully maintained a 20% career growth rate over an extended period.
Maintained, not just a spike, but sustained growth.
Exactly. It's powerful evidence that success rooted in these deep, ongoing spiritual practices can be a lasting, expanding reality, not just a temporary win.
Sustaining success is the ultimate goal. Thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive. If you've enjoyed this episode and want more explorations like this,
please do like, subscribe, and share Book Podcast Zone with your friends, family, anyone you think might find value here.
Wow. Okay, so just to recap that whirlwind journey through success starts in your mind, we started with the power of thoughts shaping reality through faith.
Then finding divine purpose, overcoming fear of success, cultivating positive thinking via gratitude.
Right. Building faith-based confidence, breaking bad habits, visualizing success through a divine lens.
The absolute necessity of supportive community, taking action God's way.
And finally, sustaining it all through ongoing faith and perseverance. It's quite a comprehensive framework.
It really is. And as we've seen, the power lies in its practicality. It's not just theory, it's presented as a clear manual.
Yeah, those actionable steps: journaling, purpose statements, targeted prayers, affirmations, tracking, visualization prayers, joining groups, action plans.
Exactly. They bridge the gap between spiritual ideas and tangible results, making success something you actively work towards in partnership with the divine.
Absolutely. So after exploring all these powerful concepts, hearing those 2025 examples, here's a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on this week. How might integrating just one of these principles, maybe it's the journaling, maybe seeking purpose, maybe building community, how might just one intentional shift start to reframe a challenge you're facing right now?
Or maybe accelerate a goal you're working towards.
Yeah.
Just one small faith-rooted change.
Think about that. Even one step has the potential to create ripples, to change the landscape of what feels possible.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Success Starts in Your Mind. It's been fascinating to explore.
It really has. We look forward to our next exploration with you right here on Book Podcast Zone.